$14000 for 2 weeks in prison. Would you do it? The food looks like crap. You might end up as a guard. Or you might be a prisoner. This is the famous Stanford prison experiment. Jack wanted to take his girlfriend to India for a trip, but he had just been fired and had no money. By chance, he saw an ad for the experiment in the newspaper. 2 weeks, $14000. A huge crowd of applicants showed up. He quickly met a guy named Mike. The professor conducted interviews to assess each person's background, to decide who would be assigned as guards and who as prisoners. Jack wore an EEG device. As he watched the terrifying footage, it was clear that he couldn't handle it. The bus took them to the experimental site. The professor reassured them that the environment was safe, but warned that some would have their human rights stripped away. If anyone used violence, or if someone tried to leave, no one would get the money. The roles were assigned. Prisoners walked into their cells, and the rest changed into guard uniforms. The professor read out the prison rules. If a prisoner violated any rule, it had to be dealt with within 30 minutes. Otherwise, the red light would go off, and everyone would lose their money. Everything felt so real. First, they took a shower when they arrived. Both groups stood behind the yellow line. During the experiment, prisoners could only be referred to by their code numbers. Jack's roommate didn't seem very friendly, but the surveillance cameras covered every angle. However, there was one guy who was very welcoming. Most people were there just for the money. At first, everyone was smiling. Everything seemed normal. But then, due to a basketball accident, the ball hit one of the guards in the face. Things in the prison took a turn. Even though the guard said he was fine, others still felt that the prisoner had done it on purpose. They insisted it had to be handled immediately, or else the red light would go off and no one would get paid. Mike, the team leader, agreed. They made the older prisoner do 10 push-ups, but he refused, so they made everyone do 10. At this point, some immediately dropped to the floor, and the rest followed suit. Mike was stunned. He laughed and said these prisoners were like slaves. 30 minutes passed, and the red light still didn't go off. They thought they had done things right. When the time was up, the lights turned off promptly. They were still monitored as they slept. The next day, everyone was unhappy with the food. It was hard to swallow. Jack couldn't finish his meal. The guard insisted that he had to clean his plate according to the rules. Everyone thought, "Are you kidding me?" But the guard remained firm. Jack got so mad that he collapsed in front of him. The guard followed the previous method, and made them all do more push-ups. The older prisoner refused to do any more, and even fought back. Suddenly, chaos broke out in the prison. The prisoners were ecstatic, as if they had just won a victory. They felt that doing push-ups no longer intimidated them. Now, more severe punishments were needed. Mike said, even though they couldn't use physical violence, they could still torture and humiliate the prisoners.